Hey everybody, I am live. Welcome to the live stream. A lot of stuff to talk about. Jeff Sessions will be testifying tomorrow. We are back from not really a vacation, but had a no show on Friday as I was traveling down to Ring of Fire Studios in Pensacola, Florida. Learned a lot about technology, studio building, possibilities for the David Pakman show. Talked about that on today's bonus show. Not going to talk about it here too much since I did talk about it, but a lot to discuss as far as that trip goes. It was quite a sociological experience, to say the least. So I will get into shortly the Jeff Sessions thing. A lot of other things that I do want to mention. If this is your first live stream, a few notes. I'm really live unless you're watching a replay. And if it is not 6 p.m. Eastern time right now on Monday, June 12th, then this might be a replay. Number two, Super Chat is on. People already using Super Chat. Super Chat questions and comments will be read, answered if an answer is appropriate. That is the $ below the text window. Number three, any new members or new patrons who sign up or pledge during the stream, I will give you a thank you and shout out and talk about how great of a person you are and sing your praises. You can find out more about that at davidpakman.com/membership and patreon.com/davidpakmanshow. More on that later. Number four, there are moderators checking out what's going on in the chat. They have been deputized based on very specific criteria and guidelines that I've established. They will block you for obvious trolling and hate. You will be banned. And I believe that that is not only from this live stream, but from all future live streams. Subtle trolling probably will not get you banned if it is subtle enough. And where the line of subtlety is, well, I guess we'll find out. It'll be quite an experience. Let's talk about what's going on with Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions will now be testifying tomorrow in regards to the Trump-Russia investigation. Now, this is relevant for a number of reasons. Please check out the link that is in the description, okay, from the Washington Post. That is a link talking about why Jeff Sessions' testimony on Russia is so important. Now, I'm going to talk about some of what that link says. I do not deny that Jeff Sessions testifying about Russia is important. I just don't believe we're going to get anything of importance out of Jeff Sessions tomorrow. He is now, so let me set the context for you here. Last week, James Comey testified, but prior to that, there was testimony from NSA Director Admiral Mike Rogers, Director of National Intelligence Dan Coates, Acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe, and who was the fourth person? It's escaping me. In any case, that testimony opened the door to basically saying, I'm not going to answer. Not because it's legally questionable, not because the White House has invoked executive privilege, but Dan Coates got into a back and forth with Senator Angus King where he was saying, I am not going to speak about that. And Angus King said, well, why not? Has the White House exerted executive privilege? And Dan Coates said, no, it hasn't. And Angus King asked, do you have any legal basis for not answering this question? And Dan Coates said, no, I really don't. I just am not going to talk about conversations I may or may not have had with President Trump or whatever the case may have been. Now that that has happened and it was accepted as apparently legitimate in some way, shape, or form, Jeff Sessions is going to show up tomorrow. It's not like Jeff Sessions has agreed to testify despite what his boss, Donald Trump, wants him to do. Jeff Sessions has agreed to testify for strategic purposes after the testimony of James Comey, and he's going to show up, and if the answers to the questions he's asked, probably by Republicans, are answers that will then be tweeted about by Trump and parroted by Sean Spicer as really great for Donald Trump, Jeff Sessions will answer the questions. When the questions are likely from Democrats and maybe some fair-minded Republicans, questions that by answering would potentially paint Sessions or Trump in a negative light, Sessions is going to say, related to an ongoing investigation, so I'm not going to answer. I've recused myself from things related to Trump-Russia. Who believes that? So I'm not going to answer that. He will just not answer. And you will get people like Angus King who will say, well, hold on. Is there really a solid legal basis to your non-answer here? And there won't be, but it is going to work. Don't think that Jeff Sessions is going to choose to show up and all of a sudden it's going to be a disaster for Donald Trump. What we can hope for is that the non-answers are crafted tactically in terms of the questions asked primarily by Democratic senators, such that not saying no by Jeff Sessions will raise red flags. And we saw that with the testimony last week with Admiral Mike Rogers and DNI Coates, etc. And hopefully it'll happen tomorrow. Now, I am going to get into why it's important to hear from Jeff Sessions on this. Before I do that, let me just go through a few super chats real quick. Getty Germany sent a €2 super chat saying happy Cobb Fefi. Well, happy Cobb Fefi to you. It is 6:06 p.m., the hour of Cobb Fefi, as they say. Repentant Gamer sent a $2 super chat. Does Islam have anything to do with Islam? I would say yes. Jacob Ball sent a $2 super chat. It's 6:01 p.m. on June 12th. Is this live? The answer is, of course, yes. We are live right now. And Repentant Gamer sent a $5 super chat asking, what do I think about Reza Aslan being fired from CNN? Also, did you know he's a scholar? No comment on the scholar part. I think the videos I've done speak for themselves. I believe that CNN was completely within their rights, and I understand why they chose to sever ties with Reza Aslan. It makes absolute perfect sense to me based on the things he said on Twitter. Am I offended by the insults about Donald Trump that Reza Aslan made on Twitter? Of course not. That's not an argument. I find it offensive. Trump is a buffoonish disaster, and I've made many similar comments on my show. But I understand why CNN would choose to sever ties with Reza Aslan. So let's get now to the article that I've linked to from the Washington Post in the description to this live stream by Amber Phillips. Why is it important that we hear from Jeff Sessions? Number one, Sessions met with Russians during the campaign when they were allegedly helping Donald Trump win. That is one reason why hearing from Jeff Sessions is a really, really important thing. Congress is going to want to know, did Jeff Sessions have more meetings with the Russians that he didn't disclose? Why did he lie about those meetings? We can expect that he would say he didn't remember the meetings had taken place. What did Russia want to talk about? I can't assume that Jeff Sessions is going to tell us, but relevant nonetheless. Number two, from Amber Phillips' article in the Washington Post. Jeff Sessions was James Comey's boss when James Comey said Trump was trying to interfere in the FBI Russia investigation. As James Comey testified last week, Jeff Sessions was asked to leave the room by Donald Trump when the conversation that James Comey has described with Trump took place. So it is very relevant to talk to Jeff Sessions about that dynamic. Did Jeff Sessions, when that happened, suspect that Donald Trump was trying to interfere in an investigation? Would it have mattered to Sessions? Could he have done anything, given that he had recused himself from anything related to Russia? As you can see, this is a complete and utter mess. Number three, Jeff Sessions has technically recused himself from the Russia investigation, but it's possible that Jeff Sessions violated his own recusal. So this is something that I hope senators ask about when Jeff Sessions testifies tomorrow. What does a recusal mean in the mind of Jeff Sessions? Did putting his name on the letter recommending the firing of James Comey count as a violation of that recusal? Can he be trusted not to interfere going forward? These are all questions that Amber Phillips is absolutely spot on about when it comes to Jeff Sessions and his involvement in the Russia investigation, his recusal, his lies. But are we going to get any answers from Jeff Sessions about these things? I would be stunned. I would be absolutely stunned, because this is something Jeff Sessions is planning, is opting to do. This is an optional testimony, and Jeff Sessions is not going to say, what the hell, let me get myself in a heap of shit by volunteering to testify. Now, it could backfire. It could backfire. So even though this was a decision that was made, maybe to try to redirect from the Comey testimony, maybe to try to take attention away from something that Trump's going to do at 3:47 a.m. in the morning tonight, we don't know yet. We don't know yet. But there is no doubt that it could backfire, as have so many of the things that Donald Trump has done. And I will be I will be watching with interest, no doubt about it. Let me say thank you, big thank you, to Matthew O'Brien, who has just signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Membership is the #1 funding source for the David Pakman Show. You can sign up for a monthly or yearly membership. If the normal prices are a bit high for you, not to worry. We have a coupon code. You can select to use the coupon code by typing in "I voted 17," all one word, all lowercase, on the second page of the sign-up form. Also during the live stream, Ken Turner has signed up using that coupon code. Nick Monroe has signed up just in the first 11 minutes of this live stream. Thanks to all of you. Kelly Edgar has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Thank you. You are truly great people. You are supporting alternatives to homogenous corporate media. And in the wake of the YouTube advertiser boycott, and I hope you're up to speed on that, the New York Times wrote about the YouTube advertiser boycott, specifically how it's affecting the David Pakman Show YouTube channel. Wired wrote about the YouTube advertiser boycott, specifically addressing how it is impacting the David Pakman Show YouTube channel. We have lost, sadly, I wish I could tell you it's all ginger snaps and waterfalls, but we have lost 2/3 of our revenue as a result of the YouTube advertiser boycott. And as a result, talking about the importance of membership has never been more relevant. Also on the program tomorrow, I will be addressing a number of other important issues on the program tomorrow. Number two, after talking about the Jeff Sessions testimony, is that Donald Trump's Muslim majority country travel ban has failed again in court. The New York Times, just in the last couple of hours, writing about this. Yet again, this is the second iteration of Donald Trump's attempted Muslim majority country travel ban. A second federal appeals court has ruled against the revised version of Donald Trump's travel ban. This came from the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit in San Francisco, and people who follow this at all know that the Ninth Circuit is considered the most liberal, blah, blah, blah. But they have just added their stamp onto what we have already seen from multiple courts, saying it's just not going to happen. It just can't be. The decisions arriving at the same basic conclusion, which is that the First Amendment's prohibition of government establishment of religion is being violated, and that even if we pretend that Donald Trump never talked on the campaign trail about targeting Muslims with the ban, it effectively and disproportionately impacts Muslims, and as a result, it's a violation of the First Amendment, plain and simple. How funny is it that the elected official from the party that claims to be all about the Constitution has put forth two times a proposal that, according to multiple court rulings, violates the Constitution, and not some obscure amendment from the Constitution, but the First Amendment to the Constitution. So bad news for Trump. And what I'm sort of thinking about is, are Trump supporters going to keep him accountable, hold him accountable for this? Because they may choose to say, Trump promised he would do it, and he did it. It's not his fault that evil liberal judges all over the country in a variety of states have incorrectly claimed that it violates some bogus document. Oh, wait a second. Yeah, the Constitution, the document that we obsess about and fetishize. I think that there is no doubt that some Trumpists will say he did everything he could except propose a constitutional bill. And it's the fault of Democrats. It's the fault of activist judges. It's the fault of, I don't know, Barack Obama still, whatever the case may be. He is going to be given a pass by many, many Trumpists. There is no doubt about it whatsoever. So we'll talk about Jeff Sessions' testimony tomorrow on the show. We will talk about Donald Trump's travel ban failing once again. We will talk about 8 congressional leaders that are opposed to net neutrality. But specifically, we're going to talk about how much money they received from internet service providers like Comcast and Verizon and ISPs, and represent.us, which is run actually by a friend of the show, or at least was. I hope he hasn't left. I believe he's still involved here. Josh Silver, formerly of Free Press, more recently of Represent Us. And we're going to talk about Congressman Greg Walden and our old buddy, Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn. We're going to talk about John Thune. We're going to talk about Roger Wicker and Paul Ryan and Kathy McMorris Rogers and Tom Graves. And I'm going to tell you not about the hundreds, not about the thousands, not about the tens of thousands of dollars, but about the hundreds of thousands of dollars that some of the key voices opposed to net neutrality, some of the money that they have received from the very companies that stand to benefit from getting rid of net neutrality. It's a story about corruption. I mean, plain and simple, it is a story about corruption, period. And we're going to be talking about it on the program tomorrow. I also am going to talk about, so I don't know how many people will be surprised by my view on this. Megyn Kelly, formerly of Fox News, months ago announced she was leaving Fox News, and she was going to get a new program. I think it's a Sunday night show on NBC News. And this is sort of like main NBC, not MSNBC, but NBC Channel 5 on my cable system, one of those main network channels. And the idea was going to be investigative, hard-hitting. She did this interview with Vladimir Putin, which I thought was quite interesting, to be honest with you, and very interesting work. And she is now teasing an interview that she did with Alex Jones, conspiracy theorist of InfoWars fame. And she is getting slammed, absolutely slammed for that, saying, many people saying, you are bringing to the mainstream a guy who thinks 9/11 was an inside job, a guy who, to be frank, I don't know exactly what his position is right now on the Sandy Hook shooting, but at one point he believed some combination of it was staged with crisis actors and it was an Obama thing to create a pretext to take guns, which, by the way, he never did, etc., etc. So there are lots of people saying, this is an embarrassment. Alex Jones should be no-platformed. Now, if you're at all familiar with my show, you know that I don't believe in the concept of no-platforming at its core. There are individuals that I don't believe are worthy of being given time because we're not really going to learn anything interesting, right? So, for example, when I interview the Westboro Baptist Church, that is a notable church. For decades at this point, has been on the forefront of anti-gay bigotry. And I think we've learned quite a bit about the sources of extremism and how people become radicalized and their thought processes, et cetera, et cetera. So you could argue, hey, don't give them a platform. I've opted in the past, although I don't do it anymore because it's old news, there's nothing more to hear from them, to talk to them because I was interested in figuring out how do they get to where they are. On the other hand, if you come to me and you say, hey, interview this random street preacher who is on the streets of Cleveland, Ohio. I mentioned that only because the last time I was in Cleveland, I walked by a street preacher that nobody knows or pays attention to, who's also a homophobic nut. I'm not interviewing that person because I'm no-platforming them. I just think that their ideas are not notable in the sense that many people are anti-gay, and that random street preacher has not really made an impact in any way. Now, as a result, where am I on Megyn Kelly interviewing Alex Jones? I have no problem with interviewing a prominent conspiracy theorist as long as you are not bringing them on to talk about how great they are or to provide no opposition, factual opposition to what they're saying. From the preview that I've seen, Megyn Kelly doesn't do that. She seems to be there in opposition of what Alex Jones is saying. And I don't believe that saying we're going to no platform Alex Jones is something that is logical or that I would support. That being said, there is a case to be made that NBC News, a premier and flagship program launched with much fanfare with Megyn Kelly, launched under the controversy of the problems that she had with the late Roger Ailes with regards to sexual harassment and blah, 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 blah. And she didn't speak out soon enough, according to some people, about knowing that it was going on. I think that the platform is too big for Alex Jones. In other words, it's not that I think conspiracy theorists shouldn't be interviewed or people with vile ideas shouldn't be exposed so we learn about what's going on. I think Alex Jones isn't really worthy of being featured so early on in this new program on NBC News. That's my problem with it. And it is not an issue of no platforming or anything along those lines. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. I'm going to try to get to Puerto Rico voting once again in favor of statehood. Now, they still didn't have major voter turnout. I think it was in the low 20s turnout. But 90-something% of those who did vote in that referendum type vote in Puerto Rico said they want to become a 51st state of the United States. Now, it's probably not going to happen, and we're going to talk tomorrow about why. And I'm also going to talk about how that would influence the balance of power in the United States. In the United States, if you think about Puerto Rico would more than likely be a blue state, but not as blue as some people think. There's some assumption that, it's Spanish-speaking people, so it would be like an 80%, 90% blue state or something like that, because it's effectively a completely Latino territory and would-be state. Puerto Rico has elements of conservatism, so we're going to talk about that tomorrow on the program, and I think that there's actually a lot there, and it should be an interesting conversation. So we're going to talk about that. Let me adjust my mic volume. A couple people saying that I am difficult to hear. Let's see here. Just going to tweak it a little bit, see if that makes it any better. I haven't changed any settings, so I'm surprised that I'm having trouble hearing me. I might have accidentally just muted myself for a second there. I'll move the microphone a little bit closer and see if I can speak up a little bit. Okay, so all of those stories tomorrow on the program and a lot of other interesting and exciting stuff. Let's get to some super chats here. Hobbitten has sent a 10 British pound super chat saying, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Could the Russia thing be a smokescreen? Trump and company acting suspicious, so we focus on a non-story, so we don't focus on his domestic policy. It's a bit nuanced. It's a bit nuanced for the apparent intelligence of Donald Trump. But there's no doubt that Donald Trump seems to use misdirection or redirection when he wants to move our attention away from one thing and towards another. This is why I'm making it a point to pay attention to what Republicans are doing in the House and Senate, to what Donald Trump is signing. Just today on the broadcast program, we talked about this bill that's been passed by House Republicans that would do a lot to destroy the provisions of Dodd-Frank. Now, hopefully it won't pass in the Senate, or if it does, it would pass with significant revisions. But I think that generally speaking, you're not off that it's a tactic that is used. Is that broadly what's going on with the Russia investigation? I don't think so. Floppy Kid has sent a $2 Canadian super chat asking, who will play Comey in the movie? You know, I believe that, sadly, the late, great Robin Williams, although typically a comedic actor, could have played James Comey. I know the look isn't exactly right, but I think that he could have done it. Not going to happen due to the sad death of Robin Williams. And I don't know who would be an alternative good choice to play James Comey in the movie. What the movie will be, I'm not totally sure yet. But I'll think about that a little more. If you're just coming in, and if this is your first David Pakman Show YouTube live stream, we are live right now, 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time on June 12th, 2017, unless you're watching a replay. We are live. I'm chatting with you right now. Number 2, Super Chat is on. Those questions that you heard me reading, those are questions sent by using that $ at the bottom of the chat window. And I will get to both questions and comments there. Feel free to use that. New members and new patrons will get live thank yous and shout outs during the stream. You can become a member at davidpakman.com/membership. You can become a patron at patreon.com/davidpakmanshow. And please, don't troll. Obvious trolling and hate will get you banned. And, there's a bunch of people, by the way, that are just putting MAGA, I don't know how you pronounce it, MAGA, just repeating it time and again in the chat. And I just blocked a couple of them because that's just nonsense. We don't really have time for that here, okay? As far as membership goes, big thank you to Bill Bennett. Bill Bennett has just signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Bill has opted to save 40% on his membership by entering the coupon code IVoted17 in the coupon code field at IVoted17. Thank you so much, Bill. Also, big thank you, major thank you, I should actually say, to Brian Merritt. Brian Merritt has also signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. I will also mention that we are continuing to fundraise to make up for the lost YouTube revenue on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/davidpakmanshow. Don't be shy. Every dollar helps. Please don't think that because you might only be able to contribute $1 or $2, that it's not worth contributing at all. Over 1,500 people have made contributions as small as $1 per month. Every contribution is valuable, and I will also do thank yous and shout outs to people who do Patreon pledges. And the truth is, if everyone who could afford it from our YouTube subscriber base of now closing in on 400,000, if everybody who could afford it did $1 a month, we will be finishing up this funding calamity quicker than you can say Cobb Fefe. All right. So please check that out, and I will get back to thank yous and shout outs a little bit later. I also want to tell you that we have a major long form piece on political correctness that we are going to be broadcasting, premiering, I guess is the word I'm looking for you, on Monday. Monday, 1 week from today, June 19th, we are going to premiere a roughly 15-minute video on political correctness. Political correctness is something that I've talked about quite a bit. Political correctness has become a favorite topic for, what am I trying to say here? There are those who like to just talk about social justice warriors, trigger warnings, special snowflakes, and political correctness as the singular problems in American political and economic culture today. And I think that they're off their rockers. At the same time, I am not someone who believes in stifling speech merely because it might be conceptually, quote, offensive when there are worthwhile conversations to be had. Now, that being said, calling a transgender person by the gender pronoun that they want to be called is not really oppressing your ability to speak freely. So we are going to talk about both sides of this in this long form piece next week. And I think that you are going to like it and appreciate our attempt at telling both sides of the story, because there are issues with overbearing political correctness. However, they're not really the ones that most right-wingers who use political correctness in the same way that they say just social justice warrior and special snowflake. So we're going to be talking about that. All right, that's going to be really, really good. Also on the program tomorrow, if I have time for it, the United States killed more Syrian civilians than ISIS and Russia, I guess I would say, in March of 2017, which we just got data for, there is a very, very interesting blind spot that exists many times when making humanitarian arguments for American military intervention. And it often misses the reality that our interventions, sometimes optional interventions, interventions which feed the military-industrial complex, interventions which feed the patriotism marketing complex, the faux patriotism nationalism complex of the American right, oftentimes end up killing or hurting more people than the humanitarian crisis we claim to be trying to stop. And that is exactly what the data suggests when it comes to the situation in Syria. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow pretty extensively. So I hope that you'll tune in to tomorrow's program. Let me deal with a couple of super chats that have come in. Akeen, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, has sent a 10 Danish kroner super chat. Don't know how much that is offhand. I believe a couple of dollars. Thank you very much. Mr. Twazo, Twazo, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, has sent a 2 British pound super chat asking whether I think Trump will chicken out of his fall UK visit. Isn't that the visit he did chicken out of? I believe that it's been pretty widely reported. We did a story on the show today about how Donald Trump has told Theresa May that he is not going to do the visit that he promised, that he accepted previously to the UK until the situation will be more welcoming for him and will not result in protests, which it's like, well, that's never going to happen unless you go to countries where protesting is banned, like North Korea or Saudi Arabia or Turkey. I mean, Iran, I don't know. What is he talking about? And it's funny because, as I said on the program today, there is no bigger triggered special snowflake to jokingly use the term that the right uses about some people on the left. There is this is the guy, right? I mean, this is the guy who seems just constantly triggered and has to retreat to safe spaces. He did it in Israel. He did it in so many places, and it is really, really bizarre. There is, I think we're caught up on the super chats. I want to mention one thing I saw in the chat. Somebody posted, oh, I see what's going on. Akine meant to send this question with the super chat, but it didn't go through. The treble is horrible in your studio videos, but a lot better in your live streams like this one. Please fix it. I have not heard that before, and I have not experienced that. I mean, I listen to the studio videos all the time, and I've not noticed that the treble is an issue. I don't know if you're saying that the high end is tinny or something like. I really don't know, but we've not received one other comment about it, and I don't know what might be causing it on your system. But I don't know. I'll look into it tomorrow. But it's not something that I've heard is an issue. But we will look into it. The technical team will take a look, and we will see what we can figure out. I hope in the next couple of days to be able to talk about the situation going on at Breitbart. There's a new report out which alleges in the Washington Post that Breitbart, which is the propaganda news outlet of close Trump advisor Stephen Bannon, has lost 90% of its advertisers in 2 months. The number of advertisers on alt-right Breitbart.com has dropped 90% in recent months, from 242 in March to 26 in May, according to data from Media Radar, a New York firm that tracks online advertising. Among those that continue to advertise include a gentleman's club in Northern Virginia, a golf resort near the coast of Spain, and the conservative foundation Judicial Watch. The foundation's president, Tom Fitton, said in an interview, "Liberal activists want to destroy Breitbart, but we won't be cowed. We advertise widely on the internet, and we're proud of the relationship and the partnerships that we have." This is absolutely fantastic. Breitbart has had this issue where there's many advertisers that are not buying ads on individual websites, right? They go to an ad network and they say, we want to buy 5 million impressions a week or whatever the case may be, and we want to be on news and politics sites. And then their ad through the agency starts to appear on different websites. A lot of these companies that inadvertently were advertising on Breitbart.com were targeted by social media shame campaigns with screenshots saying, here's your ad next to an article about how, the alt-right is great or whatever the case may be. And that has caused many advertisers, according to this, 90% of Breitbart's advertisers, to pull their ads from Breitbart. There are some that are advertising directly with Breitbart, but many of them are going through ad networks. And the ad networks have the ability to just say, this advertiser does not want to appear on Breitbart. And that is exactly what it seems like is happening. Now, I want to be super clear with you. Some people have written me and said, David, how can you support these targeted boycotts of Breitbart when your channel is suffering at the hands of the YouTube advertiser boycott? Aren't you supporting what is actually causing you a problem? And the answer is, as you can probably guess, no. These are totally different things, okay? If a specific advertiser went to YouTube and said, we don't want to advertise on the David Pakman show because we are getting blowback about his politics, that would be analogous to what's going on Breitbart. What happened with the YouTube advertiser boycott is that as a result of some frenetic and panicked articles, including one in the Wall Street Journal, advertisers threatened to back out totally from advertising on YouTube as a platform because the articles alleged YouTube couldn't control when ads showed up on racist or hateful content. Of course, that's not true. If anything, the opposite is true. YouTube's algorithm is already too strict. And what happened when YouTube flipped this new advertising algorithm is that not only did the few targets of these companies lose ads, a whole bunch of other channels like mine also lost initially 99% of our revenue, and eventually now we've settled at a loss of about 2/3 of our revenue. So these situations are not analogous, and so I completely support the public media shame campaigns for advertisers who are advertising on specific channels or websites. That is not how we were hurt. We are not the hateful and offensive content. And you know what? If somebody really does, if an advertiser really does disagree with my politics so much that they don't want to advertise with me, I don't want them advertising with me. And if anything, we are sort of seeing the opposite, which is because we don't do not FCC unsafe content, we actually are supposed to potentially have many major advertisers on our channel who are not playing games with the politics. They advertise on left-wing and right-wing channels. They say, we're just trying to appeal to the demographic that watches the David Pakman Show YouTube channel. So a lot of this is outlined in there's been a couple major articles written about our YouTube channel. One was in Wired Magazine, and that's a really great article called Want a Better Web? Here's an Idea, Pay For It by Davey Alba. Very, very good. And then the Blockbuster article that was written about what's going on with our YouTube channel was in the New York Times by Amanda Hess, who did a really, really great job with this. It's called How YouTube's Shifting Algorithms Hurt Independent Media. And that's why we have launched a Patreon fundraiser, which is really important. And I'm asking for your support there, even at the rate of $1 a month. Even $1 a month really helps us to make up the money that we've unfortunately lost 2/3 of because of the YouTube advertiser boycott. And also membership. Membership is the #1 funding source for our YouTube channel. We've been depending on membership support for a very, very long time. It is more important now than it has ever been. And you can sign up at davidpakman.com/membership. We have a coupon code available for you. That coupon code is IVoted17. And I want to send a big thank you to S. Freeman, who has just signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very much for signing up. I also want to say thank you to Steve Copeland. Steve Copeland has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Noah Rizes has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. And also Charles Jewell has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. Every single membership gets you instant access to the bonus show, okay? Every day we've got our broadcast show, which is an hour. We do an additional show every day just for our paid subscribers. And I would love it if you participated. You also get commercial-free audio and video streams of the show every single day. And that is a really, really great thing. So I appreciate everybody who's been signing up. Record numbers in April, solid numbers in May, and we are trying to keep the momentum going. Let's jump back into the super chats. Screwdriver has sent a $5 super chat asking, David, what do you think of Nevada's current state proposal to let people buy into the state Medicaid program regardless of income or health status? Very good question. I generally am in favor of that type of program. I have not read yet the specifics of Nevada's program, but I will look into it and get back to you. Jordan Gerblick has sent a $2 super chat saying, who, if anyone, do you hope runs against Trump in 2020? I've specifically not been talking about that because there is so much going on right now and so much that is important for progressives to focus on, including a platform for 2018. Opposing Trump is fine, but there needs to be something done in terms of uniting progressives around issues, because the I'm not the other guy thing did not work very well in 2004 for John Kerry against George W. Bush. It did not even really work well for Republicans during the Republican primary in 2016. Hey, we're all not Trump. Right, but what's your message? And none of their messages really broke through. So Jordan, really appreciate the super chat. However, I think it is too early to start talking about that. Nicholas Benny has sent a $5 super chat. Did you see the alt-right react to the new Wolfenstein game? No, I haven't seen that. Let's see what's going on with that. I'm going to Google that. Article on Vice from 10 hours ago. The alt-right thinks Wolfenstein, the new Colossus, is racist to white people. Oh, geez, here we go. Some people on the internet don't like it. It's not because of the game trivializing World War II or celebrating violence. It's because it's politically correct and degrades Nazis and is anti-white. It has links to 4chan. Wow. Well, listen, I've not seen the game, but it's unfair to Nazis is a criticism, according to Vice Motherboard. That is wild. That is truly, truly wild. I had not seen that, but that is endlessly fascinating. I actually used to play Wolfenstein, the old versions. I used to be into Wolfenstein. I liked Doom, XCOM, both UFO Defense and the sequel, Terror from the Deep, were games that I really liked. A lot of those games I was into. Don't really play too many games anymore. Yeah, Portal 2 was good. That might have been the last game that I bought. I'd like to play the newest Grand Theft Auto, but my computer can't handle it. My desktop computer is several years old, and I am waiting to get the latest Grand Theft Auto. Now, I know it's violent and all this stuff. The gameplay is just so fun, and it's one of the types of games I really, really enjoy playing. But no, I haven't seen Nicholas Benny. I haven't seen Nick, the alt-right reaction, beyond just that article that I took a look at. And it is endlessly fascinating, and I plan to check out the game now because it is very, very interesting. All right, short stream today. Thanks to everybody who joined me. Please make those Patreon donations. Don't forget to sign up at davidpakman.com/membership. We've got a whole new show for you tomorrow. Members get the entire thing commercial-free on audio and video. Sign up. It is the number one funding source for our program, distributed every day because of your support to 200 radio and TV stations.